reasons I should stay. One by one, they all just fade away. Terrible rendition. I apologize. A 1, 2, 3, 4! Hey everyone, welcome back to Mr. Teach Film Preach. My name is Brett. I'm here today to review one of my favorite comedy TV shows out there. First TV show I'm actually doing on this channel. I haven't done a TV show yet, just haven't really spent the time to want to sit down and watch an entire series so I can do a review on it. I think I will kind of stay more in the film world. That's more of my expertise. That's sort of what I like more. Community. It is a TV show that was created by Dan Harmon, and it stars a whole slew of people: Joel McHale, Jillian Jacobs, Danny Pudi, the great Donald Glover, Chevy Chase. It's got a whole bunch of different people in it, and of course, one of my favorites of all time, Ken Jeong. Yes, Academy Award winner Jim Rash, yes, and it's just a great show. One of the things that I look for in a show is rewatchability, and I think I've said that in some of my film reviews before, but it definitely goes for double for TV. If I'm not going to come back and revisit these characters or this show, that's fine, and it doesn't mean that the show wasn't very good. Usually it just means that it was a very difficult subject matter to watch, or the show was very dark and don't want to revisit it again. Let me give you an example. American Crime Story, O.J. Simpson with Cuba Gooding Jr., John Travolta. Really good show. Ryan Murphy is an amazing TV producer and director, but it's not something that I would probably rewatch again. There's lots of, it's very dramatic, it's very heavy, it's dealing with some crazy subject matter, it's quite a story, and I recommend people go watch it. My wife included, who hasn't seen it yet. Community, I've probably rewatched about 7 or 8 times, start to finish, like season 1 to season 6. I know this show very well, and I love it. The creator of the show, Dan Harmon, has such a great sense of humor. The humor is so spot on. It's definitely my kind of humor. It's all very referential, and it's a situational comedy. It's slapstick, but it's also got some heart to it. It's just an awesome, well-rounded production. One of my favorite characters in this show is Chang by Ken Jeong, who is phenomenal in this role. Like, he should have been nominated for something in Golden Globes or Emmys for Best Comedic Actor in a Series, and maybe he was. He should be. I think he's so good in this show. He's just got such wild characteristics, and he's so over the top. The way he delivers them is just fantastic. I think Ken Jeong is probably one of my favorite comedians. I think he is so well-rounded. He's like another version of overacting. I mean that, and I give that actually as a compliment. Like Jim Carrey, who's still one of my favorite actors and performers to this day. Jim Carrey is an overactor, and I love that. And so, same with Ken Jeong, I feel like he falls in that same kind of category. He is beautiful as Chang. He plays everything from him being a Spanish teacher, to a student, to a security guard, to a crime warlord, to someone who has amnesia, who eventually becomes a part of the group. It's such a great way to see a character still being very funny, but also written well enough that you care about him still. And I think that's what this show is. It's so ridiculous, it's so over the top, it feels like a cartoon, but you really do feel a human connection to these characters, and you feel invested with them. A show about a community college with a bunch of wacky characters. That's pretty much the premise. And it works. It's beautiful. And I think one of the things I love about it is that the cast of characters have this great chemistry. They mix well together. Their humor is spot on. Everyone sort of brings in their own comedy to the show. Everyone sort of brings in their own brand, and I love that. And so you kind of get a mix of slapstick and physical humor, physical comedy. You get referential humor, wide variety of it. And I think Dan Harmon, and his team of writers have crafted a great show. I love this show since it came out. I remember being aired, I watched the pilot and thought it was hilarious. And then I remember there was these filmmakers, or these TV directors and producers at the time, Joe and Anthony Russo, who ends up going and they make, Captain America Civil War, Captain America The Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame. Like, we're talking some of the biggest movies on the planet. They got their start in TV And one of the places in TV was Community. And to me, they have directed some of the best episodes in this series, and I'll get into some of my favorite episode in a second. But this is where a lot of talent was really honed in on. They really got to hone in on their skills and develop their craft and trade for filmmaking and for working with actors. And I think that's the reason why they did such a good job in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that they were their training grounds were this like really fast paced, really a lot of characters, a lot of crazy situations, and they pulled those talents over when they went into the MCU, and you can see that. So the fact that they were able to have these great filmmakers come out of this show, a lot of the talent, like Joel McHale is huge now. Obviously, Donald Glover is the person he is, and you know he's everything. He's a rap artist. He's a filmmaker. He writes his own TV shows. He stars in them. He acts. He does a bunch of different stuff. His stand up is hilarious. He is great as Troy, and obviously Danny Pudi as Abed. Troy and Abed, they're awesome. They remind me of like what me and my friends were growing up, and I think that's the reason why I love those two characters so much. Troy and Abed is that they remind me of like my friends and I, and we would joke around and make referential humor, and we would talk about movies and stuff, but we would always do these crazy, wacky, strange adventures, and everyone's like, you guys are like 16 years old and weird and doing strange kid stuff, and that's what we did. And what can I say? So I love those characters, and Dean Pelton being played by Jim Rash is awesome. And this is a guy that is known a lot for his writing. He won an Academy Award for The Descendants, which was with George Clooney. He wrote that movie, and with his writing partner Nate, I think it's Nate Faxon, and they did a great job, and they won an Academy Award. And here he is on this show. He's hilarious as Dean Pelton. Oh, Jeffrey! And I love Dean Pelton and Jeff, and he's always like touching him, and you know, oh Jeffrey. Another thing I love about this show is that it is a cartoon without being a cartoon. It's a as big and as close as they can get to being a real life cartoon, where there's just all these wacky situations and these crazy characters, and they just have a lot of fun with the show. And something I love in the show is that they bring in a lot of different genres into their episodes. Or not so much in the first season, actually. It was a little bit more of a show about a community college and these students in a study group. And it really started off with Jeff wanting to sleep with Britta. But it evolves into this community. It turns into this community, and they have all these adventures. So, you know, there's an episode where they are like lost in space, you know, locked in a Winnebago that looks like a rocket ship, and they've been towed. You know, they do an episode for Halloween with a zombie apocalypse inside the study group room, and it's at a Halloween dance. You know, they do an episode where it's as Abed says, it's a bottle episode, and they are trapped in the study room, and they never leave that room. It's all taking place in the one spot, and it's all about a pen that Annie has lost or someone has borrowed and not returned to her. Homages to action adventure movies, you know, or TV shows, and so they do a great homage with paintball, and they have some great paintball war episodes, and those are my favorite. I love they don't just do one sort of brand of humor, they kind of stretch into different genres, and then they pull humor from all those different genres and create their own show. That's why a lot of their episodes feel so different from each other, but they still have the same tone, even if though it's a different genre for that episode. And I think that's the genius of Community. They can kind of choose where they want to go. There's no sort of boundaries with that show. You do a show like Breaking Bad, and they set it very realistic, and it's all very dramatic, and it's all set around these characters, and it's very human and character driven and story driven too, but you're definitely not getting the slapstick comedy out of that show. And so you have to stick with that one genre. Community has this ability to kind of mold itself into however they want to. They make fun of themselves they make fun of other genres and of television and films, but they also are very self-aware. My favorite episode for me personally out of all 6 seasons has to be in season 2. The episode is called A Fistful of Paintballs, which is obviously a parody of the Clint Eastwood Western film A Fistful of Dollars. And it's a great homage to the Western and sort of to the gunslinger, Lone Ranger genre, and they do it with a paintball war that's happening at Greendale at the community college. And it's an amazing episode. Again, directed by, I think, Anthony Russo. or Joe Russo, maybe both of them. One of the brothers directed this episode, who did the Marvel MCU movies, and it is so good. It's so funny. It's so fast paced. It's got such great humor. It's got actual great action scenes in it, and it's very surprising. Sawyer from Lost makes a cameo appearance in it, and there's a great moment with him and Jeff arguing who's kind of better looking. And there's just so many great moments in that specific episode. I think it really encapsulated what that show was about, how it succeeded, and why it succeeded so much. I think it's one of those shows that has a cult following. Not everyone will love it, and not everyone has seen it. It's well known, but it's not like Friends. It's not like Brooklyn Nine-Nine even, or How I Met Your Mother. It's very much its own thing. It's separate from all the other sitcoms, but it's definitely a sitcom. It's definitely situational humor. And there's a few episodes that are, they're mediocre, but if you really want to see a show that has great humor, great timing, all these references, and it keeps you laughing and it keeps you invested with a show that has a lot of heart too, surprisingly, and moments that you actually genuinely care about these characters, check out Community. It's a great show for you. I've been a fan of it since it first aired. I've been promoting the show ever since I first saw it, and I've turned a lot of people onto this show happily. Rainy day sort of show, or one that you can just put on in the background. You've seen 100 times and you can still enjoy it, but continue to do other things, maybe around the house, similar to like Friends or How I Met Your Mother. Great shows. You don't have to take them too seriously, but you love them, and that you want to keep coming back for more. So that is my review of Community, the TV show. I was on for 6 seasons in a movie, and hopefully one day we would get a return of a movie with these guys. I am going to give Community my highest grade for television show. Yes, they are master of the best. They deserve that award. Good job for Community. Dan Harmon, who also created Rick and Morty, great writer. So go check out this show. Go check out Community. And if you want to tell me what you guys thought of the show, please comment down below. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe. Please come back and check out Mr. Teach Film Preach. And as always, let's get taught.